Actually Kansas City Mavericks, but I just well, I love the Mavericks. I do work for them too, but I just love the KC, representing KC. And this is a exciting and special day or period because we found out yesterday that baseball is indeed coming back, and now we just need to keep fingers crossed because some of this will be out of our hands, that the health aspect holds up and that this virus does not prevent us from having a partial season. I've talked a lot about this on other shows. I do a Big Fly Baseball show with Victor Rojas. So I haven't really made this a baseball show, even though it's called Rounding the Bases Live. But, Rounding the Bases Live probably never would have started if not for this pandemic and keeping us at home. And now it is something that will continue even once baseball starts. It's just become too much a part of my life. I'm going to switch the times beginning next week from noon to 9. That way I have the flexibility and freedom to still be able to work a day game and be able to do this podcast and still get in. And I can move the times, from here to there, but I like to have that consistency. It's been at noon since late March here with so many different guests, and today I've got a different guest that I'm really, really excited about. But I'm so happy to hear that baseball is coming back. It means that for many of us freelancers, TV, radio, the camera people, and all of that, that we're getting back to work. And I've been out of work like so many around this country, and I say that not for anybody to feel poor Joel, but just that a lot of us are in the same boat as so many others. I just happen to have a job that a lot of people see what I do. So I'm excited to get back. 60 games of a baseball season, certainly better than none. And really, most importantly, too, at a time where so many people just need that entertainment. So I'm happy about that. There have been so many great relationships built during this pandemic. Enterprise Bank and Trust has been one. I knew the folks over there before, led by Jeff Carson, but we've taken that to another level. So I'm so grateful for their partnership with Enterprise Bank, #NoStoppingYou. And then along the way, I met the guys over at Casey Cattle Company. Actually, met Patrick Montgomery. He was on my weekly audio podcast last year. Army Ranger, former Army Ranger, and has Casey Cattle Company now. Veteran owned and operated Wagyu beef right out of Weston, Missouri. Get online if you have a chance or you're interested, because they're taking July 4th orders that you need to get in by July 1st. I think I saw it today. And whether it's the Wagyu beef, they've got pork, I think they've got lamb. I mean, you name it, they have it. So check them out, and a lot of updates on their social media. And finally, it is Wednesday. And so if you're in the Johnson County area, southwest corner of College and Antioch, tell them I sent you in there. You get great service. You don't have to tell them I sent you, and you'll still get great service. But 15% off all bottles of wine on Wednesdays. They've got a Facebook page. Just search for JJ's Wine and Spirits and go in and check them out all 7 days a week. But Wednesday is certainly a good one to do that. My guest today is someone that I've followed from somewhat afar, really in the way that we have this social media world today. So I'm familiar with his work and have seen him in person a little bit. It's Anthony Oropeza, AO, and we worked on the Spanish pronunciation to Oropeza.
Oropeza, yes.
Oropeza.
Yes.
Oropeza. Okay. So AO, as he is simply put, is, as you could see behind him, there are one of two things here. He either decided to go into someone's art studio and sit in front of some really cool paintings, or perhaps, and more likely, he is indeed that artist. And I reached out to AO the other day and I said, hey, would you have interest coming on? And you seemed a little bit surprised by that, but I see your stuff everywhere. This show is all about storytelling and also about, pivots and the pandemic and what it's done to people's lives. And I see you, not to mention that you're always liking and commenting on my stuff. So I've had my eye on you just because you start seeing that, that regularity. But I'll tell you what, man, like everything you put out there, I mean, if you look over your right shoulder is Patrick Mahomes, over your left shoulder is Eric Hosmer. That invokes feelings for Kansas Cityans and for sports fans. So, first and foremost, thanks for joining the podcast. And how crazy has your life been over these last number of years?
I was just talking to my daughter about that. 2013 or so, I made a decision to either become a barista or take this wild ride of becoming somewhat of a legitimate, serious sports painter. And I'm really glad I did, but man, it's been crazy, but it's been really cool too. So just like life, there's always that good and the bad, and you just hope that the good, which it has, outweighs the bad. So I've been really fortunate in that, but I've been, just like anybody, and I kind of parallel sports and art. If you put in the work and you take it serious, good things will happen. So that's pretty much what has been happening so far.
Yeah, and it's an amazing journey. It's one that I think a lot of people can relate to, and I think one that we all can get comfortable at times, go through the motions. Like even for me, I mean, I think I have the greatest job in the world, but
Yeah.
it's riding a bike for me. Doesn't mean that I dislike it. That I mean, I love it. They pay me to talk about baseball. How much better does life get?
Yeah.
But I think when you have, and I hope everybody through the good and the bad, and there's been plenty of bad through this pandemic, has had the opportunity to just to take a breath. A forced one too. A forced one. Look, none of us wanted this, but I know for me personally, it hasn't changed my values, but it's just given me a different perspective. It has allowed me to appreciate things maybe that I took for granted. It certainly allowed me to spend more time at home with my family. It's allowed me to cultivate new relationships, and we're seeing all of that here right on the podcast. What about for you? And now, with this wider shot here now, we see some Monarchs art behind you. And,
yeah. I've got a wit. I've got a wit that I started. I started it probably, I don't know, maybe about 2 months ago or so, and it's been put on hold. So yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on back here, and there's a whole list. I got a whole list of other stuff that I want to do.
I'm sure you do. So what has this pandemic done for you?
The pandemic, you know what? Okay, so I was considered a non-essential. So I work full time. I'm a graphics guy and a web guy, and so I didn't make the cut. So I was non-essential. So around mid-April, with me again, it's like you get the good and the bad. So the bad was, I'm not going to be able to go in. I'm not going to do the stuff I really, really like doing. I don't do this at work, but I don't get to do that at work. But the good was my kiddo, she couldn't go to school. So it was going to be me and her. And then, of course, I was thinking I'm going to do a lot of artwork. And then about 2 weeks later, not a whole lot of people know this, and I really haven't advertised this, or I mean, not advertised, but put this out. But the kiddo's mom had a stroke. And so, she doesn't have any family here in the city. So I've been keeping, and she put me on as the power of attorney for her medical. So I've been pretty much dealing with, since May 1st, for up until about this last week or mid last week, I've been dealing with insurance companies. I've been dealing with family. I've been dealing with doctors. She was in the ICU for a month. I mean, it's been really crazy that way. But I have to say it was kind of a gift that I got furloughed so that I could handle her mom's stuff. And her mom and I haven't been together for like 15 years. It's just that she put me on because she trusted me, which is a heavy weight. I didn't think it would be this tough. And then I'm trying not to get sick, from going out. And then I don't get to promote the work as often as I'd like, or start any new projects, which slows that down as well. So it's been a tough trail, but you have all these ideas and these plans of projects you want to do, and you're thinking, hey, we're going to do this, and I'm going to be able to start a campaign to do this, and I want to do a series of Negro League players because my Satchel Paige, I love my Satchel Paige piece, and if I can just go ahead and do another one, a series of them, we'll get off and we'll get that rolling, and then boom, you get hit, and so you just chip away at the artwork. But it made me decide. I guess it just sort of like cemented that I really, really love the work I do down here in the studio. And so when I get that free time, that hour or 2 hours, I'm going to hit it harder than I did before. So it makes you appreciate what you couldn't do when things were tough. So it's really weird how that works. Now, when it comes to my full-time gig, I'm still on furlough. And so now the mental thing is like, okay, am I going back ever, or do I need to start looking for something else? I mean, you start dealing with that, but it's been pretty tough, but I chip away, I post stuff and things I just want to keep afloat right now. So, yeah.
I'll encourage everybody to check out aoart5.com, and we'll talk more about kind of how you got here, how things broke through. It's a really interesting story, and a reminder that sometimes we think we have it figured out, and maybe we do, but we don't realize it till a few years later. And sometimes, it's a lucky break, and suddenly the dominoes fall. And I know that in some ways that's happened for you, so I do want to talk about that. I also want to, and I'll call this up again in a little bit, but I want to be able just to show people, and then I'll encourage them to, certainly to check out the website, but give you an idea of some of what AO is doing, and you could just see how beautiful this art is, and that looks like a Danny
Thanks.
Duffy.
That's him. Yes.
And I see the late Giordano Ventura over your right shoulder.
One of my favorites.
So that's me too. That's certainly personal to me. I've got
Wow.
Ace right here.
Yeah.
And Buck and Salvi, and so I'll say, like, every time I see your art, it invokes a feeling, which is what it's all about. I know that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
I'll ask you about favorite pieces and all of that in just a little bit, but let's go back to 2014 and a Chipper Jones piece. No, let me go back before that, and I know you're giving me some of the background here, but give me the 2013 and a painting of Mother Teresa and what that did for you in terms of inspiration.
Yeah, so she passed away in the late 90s. And so the Kansas City Star did this monster photo of her on the front page, and I clipped that out because it was a great photo. And so I clipped it out and I laminated it at Kinko's. And so I said, one day when I have enough talent, I will paint this and give it its justice. And I had moved from an apartment to a house, and I had been going through portfolio stuff and throwing stuff out. And then I came across this thing. Let me back up. I came across it down at the apartment in the basement, getting ready to throw stuff out. And I saw it and I said, okay, there's a reason why I found this. So I had this old piece of wood in the storage, and I said, I'm going to put this image onto this piece of wood, and I'm going to give it a shot. And so for about 3 months, nights, weekends, dealing, just fighting, figuring out how to paint, skin tone, work with shadow. I figured it out, I think I figured out certain things. I figured out what the pros must go through in taking a long period of time where they feel that it's that level of work. And I never thought that. I thought the pros did, and it's similar to sports. I figured the pros just automatically knew it, didn't take very much time to learn it, and they were good to go. But after speaking to a lot of pros in the art world, it's tricks. And once I did that, that made me start to think, you know what, I could probably start doing my sports art again if I understand that the patience and the time that it's going to take to knock out these projects. Because I had one or two sports artists that I just loved, and I attempted to do their type of work, but I couldn't figure out how they got that. And so that's where my first couple pieces, this Chipper Jones was one of them, that I took a lot of time in trying to figure it out, and to try to figure it out. And it started to show promise. And that's all I really needed. If I could see promise, then that's one step, then I'm going to figure out how to make, the next step. And so that's where the Chipper Jones came in. And then there was the decision, do I continue with the sports art or do I not? Because my kiddo was getting ready to go to high school, 2 years from there. So I figured, okay, I am going to need to pay for her high school, and it's not cheap. So I'm going to need some steady cash. And so I set the goal, like, if I go into sports art, the money I make from this painting stuff is going to go straight to her school. But if I go into the coffee shop barista business, the same thing's going to happen. And of course, for some reason, I picked the harder of the two. I picked the sports stuff because it happened to be that the Royals were just starting in 2013 to roll. And I was like, I love these guys. This core group of dudes were just phenomenal. And I thought they were going to do it in 13. You know, I mean, there were like one or two games and then just one run games that they lost. And we were just right there. Wild card was within reach. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to try to do a salvie. I did a salvie. It was horrible. But then I did some other tweaking. And then my first Royals was Lorenzo Cain. And with the help of social media, because I don't have an agent, I don't have any marketing, I don't have any partners to work with this. I just started posting and people really started to like it. And then from there, I just had to continue with the momentum.
The thing I love about it on your website, it's a good thing you know how to design a website too, because I have very easily found whoever you're talking about, and I could just pull that up. Good. By the way, we will one of the byproducts of this pandemic in terms of baseball story is we will actually get a chance, for those of you that are Royals fans, to see two players that we would not have been scheduled to see this year. One will be Lorenzo Cain.
Wow.
Because the Royals will be playing their division. They'll be playing, I think it's 10 games within their division, and then they'll be playing 4, or in the case of St. Louis, 6 games against teams in the division in the other league. They're trying to keep all of this in terms of travel regional, so we won't be seeing any California teams or New York or East or West Coast. But what that means is that we will have the chance to see Lorenzo Cain with the Brewers this year, and we will get the chance to see Moose. With the Cincinnati Reds now. And so I think, you know, even if fans aren't in the stands, I think that'll be fun for all of us that have those, you know, those personal relationships, whether it be from my standpoint as a broadcaster or as the fan that just said, hey, Moose was my favorite player. Lorenzo Cain was my favorite player. That's what sports does for people.
Yes.
Is that, and that's what was so hard about this whole pandemic turning into a labor dispute, which was infuriating, was that, you know, fans don't want to hear about millionaires and billionaires arguing. They just want to go and watch their favorite players. And, you know, and the players want to play too, but they got to look out for themselves. We all have to look out for ourselves, and so so it's going to be back. It's going to be emotional, even if people aren't in the stands. How much do you think about the emotional aspect? Well, I mean, let me ask this to you in two ways. One, how much do you think about the emotional aspect for the people that see your work or that purchase your work? And two, how emotional, how therapeutic, what are the emotions for you in putting together and then seeing a piece?
Well, that's one of the cool things is that when it comes to my work, I think that the fan is going to like it or love it because of who it is and what it is, which is great. And I love that. And it means a lot. The other thing is the non-sports fan. It's the emotion that the non-sports fan has about the work, which takes the emotion and the that I'm on the right track to another level, because I've had just probably about 3 or 4 people say, look, I'm not really sports. I don't even know who this is, but I love it. I love the colors. I love the position of it. I like everything and the texture and all of that, which I'm just like, you know, wow, I really appreciate that, because I never even thought about that. I started it because, one, I like the image, and it's a bit of a challenge for me to figure out the balance of the colors and what goes in the back, etc. But I also do it because I want to evoke an emotion from the fan. And and the challenge for me is on some of these paintings is making sure that it's as accurate as possible, which is not always easy. But for me, emotionally, it's the challenge, but it's also because I like the player. And these, you know, my first, I started I guess you could say a set of players. The idea was to do a set of Royals, 5 Royals, so that I could finish those and go and do my own art shows to get people to come to see what I do, so they would purchase originals. Well, once I did the Lorenzo Cain one, then I started getting small little, and the goal was to do it within like a year and a half. But then I started getting other little small gigs. So Lorenzo's was put on the side. And then next thing you know, I finished that. And then the next one was going to be the Mustakas. And then I'd get another little gig. So it would be delayed. But the thing is, since I set that project up for me, I was getting gigs in between, and it took me, to be honest with you, I just finished the Alex Gordon. I think it was last year, into last year, beginning of this year, and I had already established myself a little bit as a painter, which has actually helped, which is kind of a cool thing. But the emotional aspect for me is to see that people really appreciate the work, and they a lot of them understand, the time and the effort, and the other people understand that what I do like about it a lot emotionally is that they like what I'm showing on social media. They like the progression of the work. They see blank canvas, they see an outline, they see, the first layer of skin, which look horrible. And then they start seeing the eye and the eyebrow and the nose and all of that start to form. And you can tell that how they like it, because I'll get like on an outline or the first layer of skin, I'll get like 5 likes. Nobody really thinks it's nothing. And then you start adding color and it starts taking shape. And then you just the likes just keep coming, which is kind of cool. And then when I meet them and see them and chat with them, that's probably the top 3 things they say they love about it. I love seeing the progressive. And I actually thought these people don't want to see this originally. They don't want to see this, but I guess they do. I guess I would like watching coaches teach players how to move their feet to take a grounder correctly, or a band, how they go into the studio and rough it out. I mean, I guess I would like that too. So I guess I kind of understand that a bit.
Yeah, we all want to peek behind the curtain, and we all like to see other worlds.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that what we do behind the scenes in terms of TV is incredibly. It's not compelling to me, only in the sense that I've seen it a million times, but I fully understand why, and it's why I've heard my broadcast partner Ryan Lefevre say so many times, if you really want to see the most interesting aspect of what we do, go into the television truck if you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And because nobody sees that,
Right.
and all the buttons and all the organized chaos. I mean, it is like walking into an operating room to watch the way our guys work, and it is jaw dropping. But they're so good at it, and they, it's so people like that peek behind the scenes, getting a lot of nice messages coming in about AO's work. And
oh, cool.
Charlotte says, awesome artist, love following him on Facebook. You should definitely do
Thank
that. And then Kiana Sinks just simply says satchel, and let me go and see if I can find the satchel painting, because you've really done AO a lot with the Negro leagues. Why has that been so important to you?
Well, this piece actually came about with because of an interurban art house in Overland Park. I'm connected with them, and they did something about rebellion. It was a project for rebellion, and I've been wanting a project to do something like this, and so I got to work. I did a little research. I pulled some stuff off the internet, and I wanted to make a bit of a statement, but I wanted the focal point to be on Satchel Paige. And if you zoom in, you'll see. And when I did a little bit of little research on this on the player, you're doing research not only on the player, but you're also doing research on the times. Mm-hmm. And for this guy, and I didn't know how many championships or how many teams he carried to championships and playoffs. And I can only imagine, because I wouldn't even come close to understanding the feeling of the pressure, the racial pressure of his life outside of the lines, because everywhere he went, the city pretty much didn't want him there. And so in the piece, you'll see how, looking forward, he is in my opinion, his focus on what his job was, which is to be a ball player for the Monarchs, or just a ball player. But he had to mentally, behind him, put away the discrimination and all the negativity. And that's why you have 2 sides of artwork in the background showing that his goal was to be a great baseball player. And that's what his purpose was, his focus was. So he had to put everything else behind so he could be that great. So, but the goal with this one was to be the first one. And then I've got a list of other ones that I want to do. I just haven't had the time and found the right image that excites me. And that's what it is with these pieces. It's a certain image. It's like this Hosmer back here. I mean, when I saw that, and I don't have the images of the Mets fans in the background of this, but the actual image with the Mets fans freaking out, oh, it's classic. It's classic. And I'm not a big New York team fan, thanks to 1978. But just this slide, you knew that it's an iconic slide, and that's another series. There was another series of 5. So that one is the first of Royals moments that I started about a year ago, and it's been delayed because of commission work. But so the Satchel Paige is one of my favorites.
Cheryl Jensen says, loving this, great job, AO. And Kiana also just said, come on by the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum soon. They are back open, and
yes,
certainly every chance. And we should tip our caps to them. They've got a great campaign going on, and so so important. Certainly for, by the way, for anyone watching right now, and I tweeted about it, the Royals put out a video basically saying, we're back, welcome back to baseball last night. And I put this on my personal Facebook page, which is more friends and family, but I said, look, because I've got a lot of family, we didn't grow up here, but I said, whether you're a Royals fan, a Cubs fan, I grew up in Chicago, whether you're not a fan of baseball, watch this video. So just go and check out this Royals video. At a time right now where the pandemic has forced so many home, where racial injustice has brought so many people to the streets, and baseball's been missing and coming back, this video of saying baseball's back is hosted and narrated by Bob Kendrick of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
Awesome.
And it is beautiful. I could not think of a more perfect person to do it. Just check out the Royals Twitter feed, my Twitter feed, or whatever, and it is a minute and a half or whatever it is, worth your time of just beautifully written, voiced, everything that I think encompasses who we are as people, sports fans, and society is all wrapped up into a video that will stir your emotions in the way that an artist likes to bring out those emotions. So a handful of things more that I want to ask you about. First and foremost, going back to Chipper Jones, I know that you were telling me that 80 to 100 hours spent on this thing, and you couldn't find anybody to grab it for $500. And there's a message there about, sometimes you got to get that lucky break. It's not so much about the work, it's about who's seeing it or getting a little bit of momentum. So what changed for you?
So the Chipper Jones, which I love Chipper, he and when I grew up, I was a third baseman, so it was Brett and Chipper Jones for me. But yeah, Chipper Jones was one of my first sports art that I really tried to take the technique and the style to a different level, and I was out to sell it. Because I was needing some money, and I was a little low on cash, and I had school debt, and I had all kinds of debt and everything else, and so I put it out there for $500, and people were liking it, and it was really cool. And then somebody inquired about it, and I said, you know what, this thing's taken me quite a while, but you know what, $500, it's yours. And which for me, I don't think I sold a piece for $500 ever before that, but I figured the amount of time, $500 was not bad. I don't know. That came out to like $1.50 an hour or something like that. I don't know, but
think like that.
But so I put it out there, and I had a couple inquiries, and then one lady said, "Hey, maybe." So I said, "Okay, maybe. I'll wait." So I waited about a week or so, and then she inquired back, "Is it still available?" I said, "Look, $300. Come pick it up this weekend. It's yours." And then no call, no show, and so that was it. And I said, okay, I told myself, I said, one day my goal is going to be where I sell these things more than $500. And then 5 years later, he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. I get a message about a week later. Hey, is the Chipper Jones still available? And I was like, a matter of fact, it is. And this is, of course, after I have sold a handful of pieces and whatnot. My prices have increased. And she's like, is it still available? I said, it sure is. She said, is it still $300? And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not. It's $1,700 right now. So come on by this weekend and pick it up. And no call, no show. So, but that's the thing. That's the thing about this art stuff is that if you see promise in a young artist, you know, get it now, because you never know. It's similar to, a minor league player, or it's similar to a band. Book the band, because you never know, this band might be, yeah, and you will be one of the first ones to be able to say, hey, I had him over there, my show was great. So
Well, when you start looking since that moment, and now, you were telling me that original pieces can range from as little as $23 to up to 2,800, and then depending on complexity and size, up to closer to 5,000. But the cool thing about it is, I mean, it's a business, it's your livelihood, especially right now when you're furloughed. But and I know it's a passion of yours, but now you've been able to jump into different causes and be able to express yourself in that way, and in supporting causes, whether it be through charitable or whatever. What's moved you in these recent years?
I think what's one, I guess with the popularity of the media and the social media, being asked, and then on top of that, once I'm asked, to see how much the artwork goes for in some of these auctions. I would always, and the thing is, before I even sold my first sports piece, even before that, I was giving away or donating art as much as I could. But being asked, and then, like, what did I do? I did the Noah's Bandage Project, their golf tournament, just to see how much, not only, I mean, of course they love Patrick Mahomes, who doesn't, but to see the amount of money that I could help raise is more than just me giving a print or two. It just blows my mind, one, that people would pay that much for a piece of work. This was a 3-hour piece of work of Patrick Mahomes, not autographed by him. And I think it took home, I'm going to have to say, I'm probably being a little shy, but 3,800, which is incredible, and just to see people liking the work. And of course it goes to the majority of it goes to the organization, really moves me, and that I can do something like that to help, because, that's one of the cool things that I've read about and I've heard about, is that you give, not because you want something, but just give. And then eventually, some way, somehow, it will come back. But I knew growing up that there were people who helped us out when we were younger, that never really got the thanks, I guess. But now I give them so much thanks. Friends of family, people that I didn't know then, growing up. And just like charities, they don't forget the people who helped in the process. And so that's kind of one of the things I've learned, is that give without expecting anything back. But it's been proven that something, some way does, I don't know if it's karma or what, but something always comes back in return. But to see the good that these organizations will do, Noah's Bandage, Variety KC. And the thing is, some of the work that I've done has helped me. I guess it's helped me or shined a light on me a bit to be asked to be a board member. So I'm a board member of Hands to Heart KC, and I'm helping design a logo for them and working on their website, which is really cool, because I never thought I would be on a board. I mean, I'm not rich. I don't have a whole lot of resources, but I volunteered a bit. Well, and then they said, hey, why don't you're here a lot. Why don't you come help with the board, which has been really, really cool. So,
well, I mean, I've thought about this a lot, certainly during the pandemic too, like so many people, when I was out of work, and, I mean, my initial early stuff was, my mindset was, oh, who could I ask that could help me? Where can I turn? And as soon as I shifted a mindset, which, by the way, relieved a lot of burden and weight off my shoulders. As soon as I shifted it away from what can I get to how can I help, one, that feels good. It just does. And I know that that's hard. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you still have to put food on the table. You still have to have a roof over your head. There are some that don't have that. Everything is perspective. I think we've always known that. We know that more right now. But I have found more good for myself in just reaching out to others and saying, hey, maybe whether it's through this show and promoting someone, or whether it's giving someone a positive message, or whether it's saying, hey, can I help you with something? And it comes back, and I've thought about this a lot too, AO, is I don't know that it's karma. I think it's working hard to do the right things. It is work. Not everything has to be measured by hours and money. It would be nice. We all want that money to come in, no doubt about it. But when you put in that work, I think we label it as karma. Hey, if I do something good here, it'll come back. But I think it's more like people respect hard work. People respect heart. And they want to be able to return that favor, and it just works itself out. And so, when I see some of the stuff that you have done, and I want to ask you about the auction stuff. I mean, you talked about being able to raise money, but as a guy that's used to performing live in terms of television and hitting commercial breaks and rolling with the punches, you're in front of a big audience. Painting on the spot. This, I mean, that's different than working on a piece for months. Tell me about the live painting.
Okay. So, when I started this stuff, I didn't have a goal to do. I didn't have too many goals, and one of them was not to do live painting because I get nervous. I really get nervous, and so for my my kiddos' school auction a couple of years back, they asked if I would do that, and I was a little reluctant, and so I did it. And that's the image you saw with them putting me up on stage. I'm actually on stage there as well, which was nerve-wracking, but they actually put that thing up, took it up on stage, and it did pretty well. But you did not see my shirt full of sweat, and it was nerve-wracking, but it did well. And so the cool thing is that some 2 or 3 people in that crowd went to other schools and churches and said, hey, there's this guy AO, he does live paintings, we need to get him for our auction. And then so that network of moms and dads just sort of that spider web went out and said, hey, this guy's not bad. And so and then a couple of them were like, hey, so how do we book you? How do we do this? And I'm like, whoa, I don't have a system set up yet, but let's talk. And so from there, the end of 2019, I probably had like 6 gigs that I had worked on. And then I had, the kiddo, I probably had 20 gigs for 2020. And come April, like 15th, everything stopped. So I've missed out on I will miss out from here till the end of the year, probably about 10 gigs. And I've done 2 virtually. So I videotape it here, and then I give them the video, and then they throw it up on their website, and then they auction it off online, which has been pretty cool, pretty smart. So it's worked out, and you got to be creative in some of this stuff. But yeah, that's how it kind of worked out. I had no intention to do live paintings, and it just happened to sort of snowball into something pretty cool.
A few things as we wrap up. I'm glad I was able to share some of that live footage from your website. It makes me nervous watching. Like I feel like you're racing against the clock, which
and you are.
Ultimately you are. Hey, real quick on that, and then I'll move on. Is there a different mindset? I've been saying in my speeches during this pandemic that take messy action over perfection. There's no time for perfection right now. If we're going to wait for everything to be perfect, if I was going to just wait for baseball to come back, then I would have done nothing in April, May, and June. Was all of this perfect? What was doing an interview here in this platform perfect? I'm not wearing a suit like I would be on the air and all that, but look at it. Right. It might not be perfect, but people are watching it, enjoying it, and on and on. Yeah. Is there a totally different mindset of painting a Mahomes live versus when you have months?
Yes, because and I was a little nervous the first time because you get 3 hours of work. These pieces back here take 3 months, probably 80, 120, maybe 150 hours, and so you're not going to get a 2-month original, and so there is a difference in it, but there's a level of nervousness because I can fail here. And I can primer it back up and come back tomorrow morning and mess with it for 2 hours. Over there, No, you show up with your outline and your reference, and you get to work. And the main focus for me is the face and the skin, and then everything else, is going to be, but and the thing is most of the people know going in what to expect in a way from my work. So you're not going to get a masterpiece from like Van Gogh or something like that. So they pretty much know going in. So yeah, it's pretty cool how that works, but it is a whole different mindset. It's even a mindset here in the studio working on an original. Not everything is the same, but you have to remember what worked and then just go at it, because you're going to fail. And if you understand you're going to fail, you will remember how you failed in the past, and then figure out how you figured out how to get over that failure. And it's taken me a while to figure that out. And the painting and dealing with people, customers, everything, you just sort of figure out your process. And communication is the main key there, because it's similar to like when I asked you, hey, is it okay if I hijack your image? I know that some people may not like that, and you were cool with that, which is really great. And then I sent you a couple things about, bullet points. So it's just a matter of figuring that stuff out, because you're going to fail.
Well, and it's I can only relate to it in terms of live TV. It's never going to be perfect. It just isn't.
Right.
Stuff is going to go wrong, and there's going to be an audio issue or a video issue, or you forget a word on my end, or whatever. I mean, every single day, and you roll with it. And by the way, most of the time people don't notice, and if they do, they'll understand if if you're accountable for it. It happens. Yeah. Everybody understands that you can't be perfect. Two final things for you, actually three, as I think about them.
Sure.
One, I've been talking to so many guests about the issues of racial injustice, and we're seeing people come to the streets. We're seeing people, even like me, understanding that I have to do a better job of speaking out. I have a voice, and I didn't understand the importance of that in the past, and I do now. That we all have this opportunity. For you, being someone of Mexican descent. And growing up in a Mexican American family, with a mom, as you told me, that wanted you to learn English, speak English, and you do. I'm wondering, even from an artist's standpoint, as someone that captures the moment so often and so beautifully, I suspect we'll have some works of art that depict these times at some point. But how, from an artist's brain, how do you sort of see this picture of this world that we're living in right now?
How do I see the world? It's kind of like what it would have been like, similar to what was in the 60s and the 70s. It's tense, it's stressful. You don't know. I mean, but there's a lot of good change in a way where those protesters out there, it's not just one color and then maybe, sprinkled with a few Caucasians in there, like you see in the 60s photos where their arms are chained together and you see one or two. This is a mixture. So you have a wider range of people who are protesting and wanting and understanding that there's some bad things going out there and there's change needed, which was totally different from 30 years ago, which is great. Now, for me, the thing is like, okay, you're starting to get that momentum. Now, how do you maintain it after the cameras are gone? It's similar to the pandemic. I mean, in April, May was pandemic, and now it's something else. But yet we still have the pandemic. We still have, the virus. So, but for me, I think it's great. It's just everything comes from the top. Your change in organizations come from the top. The Royals, Dayton Moore, I love him. I wish I was a pro who played under him. So it's stuff like that. The change will come from the top, and you have to listen to the people on the bottom. If you don't listen to the people on the bottom, they're not going to follow you. So, but I really think that this is a great time. Unfortunately, I couldn't be a part of it because I had some family stuff I was taking care of, because I would have wanted my daughter and myself to get out there and do something. But I think the change is going to be good. it's just going to have to, they're just going to have to do it the best way they can to make change. And then this is going to happen again. This is going to happen some way, somehow, in 20 or 30 years. So, but the leaders have to make the right decisions. And I think, believe it or not, I'm starting to see some stuff with the Supreme Court. You're seeing some of the officers, they're being investigated. I mean, those are type of the stuff that would have never happened 30 years ago. So it's been really, really good to see.
No, no doubt about it. And, we need to keep talking about it. That's something that I've said. We can't, unfortunately, we live in a world, this is almost everyone, that we struggle with our attention spans to walk and chew gum at the same time. And, me too. And so we have to figure out a way to do all of that and not forget about whatever is right in front of us and remember what's all around us too. So the last question's a more lighthearted one, but it still could be the most difficult one that you answer, or maybe it's not, because people like me ask people like you this type of question all the time. What's your favorite piece that you have done?
Okay, favorite sport piece. The favorite one is Mother Teresa, which I probably will never sell. You know what? I can't say the Giordano is, but it's the one I really kind of didn't want to sell. But Gerard Dyson, it's a funny story. Gerard Dyson messaged me on that one 10 minutes before Hosmer messaged me. So
let me fill you in here. If one of them was calling you, the other one knew about it, because when they were here, those two were inseparable.
Yeah, exactly. So Dyson messaged me. I collapsed. I got myself together, messaged him back, and I said, "Okay, let me. If this is real, if you're real, serious, then okay, let me figure this out." Next thing you know, Hosmer messaged me, "Hey, I'd like that piece," and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. Gerard's first. If he actually does want to buy it, then I got to give it to him. If not, you're it." And then Gerard was dead serious. And so I said, "Sorry, Hosmer, I'll get you a print for it." And so that was one that I really, really was okay with not giving, because the kid was just phenomenal. It was a shame that we weren't able to see what he could do the next 3-4 years. It's bad. But I think it was my favorite, which is not perfect, would be my first, which actually is kind of a live painting because it started in Arrowhead parking lot, would be the first Mahomes, because that one made me or allowed me to get on the New York Times, and which is a goal or an idea I had never thought about ever. Yeah. And just the fact that I had a New York Times reporter in the studio, and it showed up on the page, because it could have been nixed. They could have just said, we don't have room for the photo, and it made it. And it was that one right there was just I was floored. I was just floored.
I read that article, and it was cool because it so beautifully captured Kansas City and the times we were in the Chiefs. If I remember correctly, Mayor Lucas was quoted in that article, among others, and it was just it really, really, we here in the Midwest love our towns, and sometimes we get, I think, probably too wrapped up into East Coast bias and all that type of stuff. I mean, we're just different here than they are there, and they're different than we are, and that's okay. It's a different pace. But when you can get that type of attention and let people know about the beauty of where we live, a town that you grew up in, that's really a big deal. And so I know that you've captured so much of that. You'll continue to do that. I want to remind everyone again, and let's get a last plug in from you. People can find you at aoart5.com. You're all over social media, so just look for Anthony there. And my guess is, if people have some work that they want done, that you are available.
Absolutely. We figured it all out, different sizes. It doesn't matter whatever the budget is. I've been there. 4 or 5 years ago, I probably couldn't afford a piece that I make right now, which is kind of weird to say, but anytime, open 24 hours, 7 days a week, all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Thank you.
All right. So check out AO. That's a simple, he's the second big AO here in Kansas City. The first was was roaming center field back in the 70s, Amos
Absolutely.
Otis.
Yeah.
And now it is Anthony Oropeza.
There you go. There you go.
Get it?
That's it.
I
Yes,
get
sir.
it?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. You know, I don't usually throw on the Spanish accent, but I can. But you know, you're AO. I think you're AO to most people that know you. AOArt5.com. Check him out. And I appreciate everything you're doing, and you know, just being able to see your work and what you've done on social media and what you've done for the community is truly amazing, and the type of story that I think has resonated here during the pandemic, and will continue to do so. So, AO, I really appreciate you spending the time today.
It means a lot, Joel. I really appreciate you reaching out and asking. I watch your show. I love it. I mean, you have a wide range of people on there, and which is really intriguing to me because you had like generals, military. I mean, that I didn't really think I'd ever see something like that. And then, I mean, you threw me in that mix. That's kind of cool, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's the goal. Let's. I don't want the same show every single day, and
Yeah.
you know, just it's all storytelling, which is what you do with your art. I can't draw or do anything like that. People can't even read my handwriting. People think that I'm a doctor. I can't do that either. I can talk sometimes,
Yeah.
and I like to tell stories, and you have a great story to tell. So I
I
appreciate
appreciate
you
it.
spending the time. Yep.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
AO. Good
Anytime.
luck.
Thank
keep
you.
keep on doing it. Best to you and your daughter, and keep representing Kansas City.
I'll see you soon. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So that is Anthony Oropeza, AO, and it is really fun to be able to tell his story. Thanks to all of you for watching. Got a lot of really good guests coming up. I continue to jump all over the place, talking about a guy that took over a business tomorrow, major roofing business, and how has that? I mean, we're talking about projects, major projects for iconic buildings in Kansas City. How has work been changed during the pandemic? That is essential work. Friday, Chiefs Hall of Famer Will Shields is going to be a guest. And then there's a lot more. We'll switch over to 9 a.m. beginning next week. But really appreciate everyone watching. Continue to stay safe. Baseball is coming back next month. And let's just hope everyone can stay healthy. Thanks to everyone at Enterprise Bank and Trust, #NoStoppingYou, for their partnership. Casey Cattle Company. Go take a look at their website. They are taking orders for 4th of July now, and they've got the Wagyu beef, pork, lamb, and much more. Updates all the time on social media. It is Wednesday. If you're down in the Johnson County area near the southwest corner of College and Antioch, JJ's Wine and Spirits has 15% off bottles of wine today. They'll help you pick out the exact right choice. You could look at them, find them on Facebook, or just pop on in southwest corner of College and Antioch in Overland Park. My name is Joel Goldberg. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. If I can speak, sometimes I can do just that. This has been Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.